Okay, today we're going to continue talking about the main idea of a story. So last week we talked about what is the main idea. You guys remember?
Yeah.
Good. What is the story mostly or mainly about? Okay, and I said you can usually summarize the story in how many sentences? One sentence. Okay, when you're talking about the main idea. So if we're looking, so we've talked about plot. Okay, we've talked about plot a lot. That's splitting a story into how many parts? 5 parts. Okay, the 5 parts. And up here on the board, I still have the 5 parts. That's position, rising action, climax, falling action, resolution. The climax is the big one that you need to worry about. You should be able to find the climax, and we should all be able to somewhat agree that that should be the climax, the turning point of the story, the oh my gosh moment of the story. Okay? We're also going to be talking about, throughout the next week and the following week, summarizing. Okay? Sort of like the plot, but you get a little bit more detail. It's mainly about the who, what, when, where, and the why of the story. Okay? And a lot of times those 5 parts are in the 5 parts of a plot. Okay, but we're really going to focus on the main idea. We're going to read a story today titled The Babe and I. So what I want us to do is we're going to do watch a short little history video on Babe Ruth. Have you guys heard of Babe Ruth before? Okay, well we're going to watch a short video about him, and then we'll get into the book.
He was known as the Sultan of Swat, the Bambino, or simply Babe. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're taking a look at the life and career of Babe Ruth.
Boys, baseball is just like life. Yesterday, Freddie was a failure. Today, he's a big hero. It just goes to show if you keep on trying, you'll come out on top as Freddie did.
George Herman Ruth Jr. was born February 6, 1895, in Baltimore, Maryland, to German-American parents. As a child, this troublemaker was sent to a reformatory where he was introduced to baseball. Ruth excelled at the sport, and by age 19, his hitting and pitching talent drew interest from minor league owner Jack Dunn. Dunn wanted to sign Ruth to his Baltimore Orioles and became his legal guardian in order to do so. Teammates teased him and nicknamed him Jack Dunn's Baby, which was later shortened to Babe. Soon, Babe Ruth was sold to Boston and made his major league debut for the Red Sox on July 11, 1914. He rose to prominence the following year with a 23-12 record, a league-leading 1.75 ERA, and 9 shutouts. Though he soon transitioned away from pitching, he made his mark with numerous records. 5 years into his pro career, Babe Ruth also had 3 World Series to his name. However, on December 26, 1919, Red Sox owner Harry Frazee sold Babe Ruth to the Yankees in a landmark deal. That deal proved great for New York and disastrous for Boston. The Babe went on a rampage with the Yankees. In 1920, he hit 54 homers and batted .376. To put that in perspective, that was more home runs than most entire teams hit per season. Meanwhile, Boston began the curse of the Bambino era, which was an 86-year drought between World Series wins that some superstitious fans attributed to the trade. In 1921, Babe Ruth homered 59 times and batted .378 for New York.
This was a time when I was trying to hit a home run. It's sure going to be today. You boys.
By 1923, the squad moved to the new Yankee Stadium, which came to be known as the house that Ruth built. Fittingly, the Bambino hit the first home run there and finished the year with a career-high .393 batting average and 41 home runs. For the 3rd straight season, the Yankees faced the Giants in the final, but this time, Ruth led his team to their first World Series title. In 1927, the Yankees lineup was known as Murderers Row because of their hitting skills. They managed 110 wins on their way to another World Series triumph with a sweep of the Pittsburgh Pirates. When the Yankees adopted the regular use of jersey numbers in 1929, Babe Ruth wore number 3. Though his play was declining, he was still a star. In 1933, he participated in the first ever All-Star game. But on September 30th, 1934, he played his last game at Yankee Stadium. After surpassing his personal goal of 700 home runs, he finished his career with the Boston Braves and announced his retirement on June 2nd, 1935. When the Baseball Hall of Fame opened the next year, Babe Ruth was one of the first 5 players inducted. His last work with the MLB was a first base coaching job with the Brooklyn Dodgers. In his last years, Ruth focused on charitable efforts. In 1946, he was stricken with cancer and finally passed away on August 16, 1948, from pneumonia. Ruth's legacy is unparalleled. From his numerous records to his extroverted personality, Babe Ruth is widely considered the best baseball player in history.
Okay, so you heard it right there. They talk about how he's the greatest that ever played. Okay? So he's going to play a big part in the story that we're going to read today. So I want you to know a little bit about him. So once again, while I'm reading, be thinking about the main idea and the plot. Mainly, what part of the plot should you be looking for?
Climax.
The climax. Good. Okay, what is the climax? So the Babe and I. For my birthday, I was hoping my parents would give me a bicycle. They only gave me a dime. I was disappointed, but not surprised. It was 1932, in the middle of the Great Depression, and millions of people were out of work. We were lucky. My father had a job, but we never seemed to have much money. Where we lived, in the Bronx, New York, everyone was poor. Okay, so we read last week about the inventor of the pizza in America, okay, or the pizza oven. And that was during the Great Depression. Okay, so they said it's 1932. So we're in the middle of the Great Depression. Things are not great. Okay, now he said his dad has a what?
Poor.
A what?
Poor.
A war?
Poor.
Okay, yeah, his dad, yeah, well, he's saying that they are poor, but he says that his dad has a job. Okay, but they don't have a lot of money, said, even though with his dad having a job. And he wanted a what for his birthday? A bicycle, and all his family could afford to give him was a dime. Now remember, this is 1932, so it's not 2020. A dime is worth a little more back then, but still, it's not what he wanted. Happy birthday, Dad said when I walked him outside. I watched him go off, carrying his briefcase and smiling. My neighbor Jacob was tossing a ball and catching it. He threw it to me and shouted, "Give me a high one. I'm Babe Ruth, the world's greatest baseball player." I threw the ball and Jacob reached up. It bounced out of his hands. He was definitely no Babe Ruth. We played for a while, and then Jacob said, "I have to go to work. Come with me. We can have a catch while we walk." A few blocks from home, we passed a woman selling apples. Her clothes were wrinkled and shabby. I gave her my birthday dime and bought 2 apples, one for me and one for Jacob. I was glad to be rid of the dime. It reminded me of the present that I didn't get. Okay, so was he happy with that dime that he got? No, not at all. He wanted a bicycle. Okay, so, he buys himself an apple and his friend an apple, like it's no big deal. He just wanted to get rid of the dime because he wasn't happy about it. We turned onto Webster Avenue, and there were more apple sellers. Near the next corner, I saw a large briefcase. I looked up, and there was Dad, selling apples like the others. Suddenly, I couldn't move. "Come on," Jacob said. I pointed. "Oh," he whispered. "I thought your dad had a job." "So did I. And Mom thinks so too." Okay, so he sees his dad what?
Selling apples.
Selling apples. So his dad wakes up, gets dressed in the morning like he's going to his job, has his briefcase, has his suit on, but he's really just selling apples, okay? So it sounds like the dad hasn't told, anyone about what probably happened to his job.
Got fired.
Yeah, he got fired. He lost his job because it's the Great Depression. Lots of people lost their jobs during this time. Business was bad. There were tears in my eyes as I watched people walk past my father. I wished so much someone would buy an apple from him, but no one did. I realized how he had earned my birthday dime, and I was sorry that I had spent it. I have to get to work, Jacob whispered. I was too dazed to know where we were going. I just followed Jacob until we came to a small building. My dad is out of work too, Jacob said as he got in line. That's why I'm a newsie. Sell newspapers with me. It's fun. So that's what a newsie is, a young kid that sells newspapers. I didn't feel like going home, so I stayed with Jacob. We collected our papers, and he said, now I'll teach you how to really sell. Okay, so the narrator thinks, I need to help out my dad. So I'm going to get a job. I'm going to sell newspapers. We walked past the newsie on the corner. Coney Island fire, he called out. 1,000 homeless. Read all about it. There were lots of people around, but I didn't see anyone buy a newspaper. Jacob and I passed other newsies calling out about the fire. Then we walked beyond the busy streets and apartment buildings. Where are we going, I asked. You'll see, Jacob said. Okay, so it looks like Jacob has a little plan to sell all of these newspapers that they have. Everyone else is just talking about the headline on the front page of the fire. It says, we walked until we came to an elevated train station. People were rushing from it to the large ballpark just ahead. We're here, Jacob said. That's Yankee Stadium. I held up one of my newspapers and called out the headline. Coney Island fire, read all about it. No, Jacob said. No one here is interested in fires. Now, where are they again? Where? Not the train station. Well, they came to an elevated train station, but yeah, they're by the large ballpark, Yankee Stadium. He picked up a newspaper and looked through it. Here it is, he said. This is what they want. Babe Ruth hits home run, he called out. Read all about it. The Babe hits number 25. Read all about it. Here, I'll take one, the man said, and gave Jacob 2 cents. Let me see that, another man said. Jacob was smart. These people were on their way to see a Yankee game. Of course they were interested in Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth hits home run, I called out. Read all about it. Jacob and I quickly sold all of our papers. When we left the stadium, the coins in my pocket made a nice jingling sound. Okay, so he figured out the trick to sell lots of papers. Only 2 cents. But it adds up, right? We went back to the small building and paid a penny for each newspaper we had sold. That left me with 25 cents. So he gets left 25 cents. So, that's more than double what his birthday present was, right? When I got home, I didn't tell Mom and Dad, didn't tell Mom about Dad and the apples, but I told her about my job. She put the coins I earned in our money jar and said, "Don't say anything to your father about the newspapers. It might embarrass him to know that you're helping out." Okay, so I want you to think about, why might it embarrass him? Later, Dad came home and put some coins in the jar. He took off his shoes, stretched out on the couch, and said, "I was really busy at the office today. I'm tired." I wanted to tell him he didn't have to pretend he still had his job, but I couldn't. I just looked at Dad's briefcase and wondered what he had in there. Oh, I didn't show you guys the picture. Sorry. So Dad's still trying to trick. Do you think the mom knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, no? Okay,
Yeah.
why do you think she knows?
Because she said she don't want him to get embarrassed or something.
Okay, so it might embarrass them knowing that you're helping out. So yeah, it does seem like the mom kind of knows. So it seems like the dad is kind of doing this for the son, perhaps, maybe. The next day, Jacob and I called out about Babe Ruth again. He had hit his 26th home run. I quickly sold my newspapers. I knew I could have sold more if only I had some way to get them to the stadium. When I got home, I searched the basement of our building for a wagon or anything with wheels. All I found were boxes and a torn suitcase. Just before I went back upstairs, I saw Mrs. Johnson pushing her baby in a carriage. "Could I borrow that?" I asked. "Why?" she asked. "You don't have a baby." I told her about the newspapers. I suppose so, Mrs. Johnson said, thinking, but this would have to be a business arrangement. With my carriage, you'll make extra money, so I should make some too. She offered to rent the carriage to me for 10 cents an afternoon, and I agreed. Okay, so Mrs. Johnson's trying to get paid too, huh? She wants some money. Kind of rude of her, taking money from a little kid, but... On Monday, the front page story was about a 19-year-old boy who had robbed a telegraph office because he wanted to be arrested. He knew he would get something to eat in jail. Okay, so that tells you how bad times were. People were trying to get arrested because they were able to eat in jail. And they did. They weren't able, they were wondering when they were going to eat next. Jacob and I didn't call out about the boy. We called out about Babe Ruth. He had won a game for the Yankees with a hit in the 12th inning. Thanks to Mrs. Johnson's carriage, I sold lots of papers. I had 80 cents to give Mom for the money jar. Okay, so obviously it sounds like he's making more money than who? His dad, that's selling apples. When Dad came home, he gave Mom a bottle of milk and a bag of apples and said, I bought the apples from an unemployed man I passed on my way home. Dad, I said, that man is not unemployed. Selling apples is a job. No, it's not, he said sharply. It's just what you do while you wait and hope for something better. He looked upset, and I realized how important it was for him to keep his secret. Okay, so obviously the dad's not feeling all that great because he's not able to really support his family like he used to when he had a job. On Tuesday, Jacob and I called out, Babe Ruth collapses. Read all about it. And on Wednesday, Babe Ruth stays home. He had hurt his leg, and the doctors told him he wouldn't be able to play for 3 weeks. That night, Dad asked me to walk with him. When we were a few blocks from home, he said, today I saw you pushing Mrs. Johnson's baby carriage. I spoke with her. She told me about the newspapers. I'm just trying to help, Dad. He said, I know. Dad held my hand firmly. We walked quietly for a while. Then Dad asked, were you ever on Webster Avenue? So what's Webster Avenue?
Where he sells the...
Good, it's where his dad sells the apples, right? Once, he squeezed my hand. Tears were rolling down his cheeks. I didn't tell Mom, I said. Dad didn't say anything after that, and I didn't either. We just walked. Okay, so obviously, the dad feels kind of ashamed that his son saw him. The next day, Jacob and I called out, Babe Ruth sits with fans. Read all about it. Here, kid, I'll take one. A tall man gave me a $5 bill. A $5 bill. I'm sorry, I told him. I can't change that. That's okay, kid. Keep the change. Okay, now remember, this is the Great Depression. Lots of people don't have jobs. Lots of people are poor. And this man just gave him $5 for, how much is the newspaper? 2 cents. And he says, keep the change. I just looked at the money. I couldn't believe anyone would pay that much for a newspaper. Jacob ran to me. Do you know who that was, he asked. You sold a paper to, who do you think it was? Babe Ruth. He sold a paper to Babe Ruth. You know who Bob Ross is? Do you know who that is? He's an old artist that was on TV. You're close though. They both start with B. B-R. So Babe Ruth. In the few pictures I had seen of Babe Ruth, he was wearing his baseball uniform, and I didn't recognize him without it. Wow, I said, I just sold a newspaper to Babe Ruth. I kept one hand in my pocket, holding on to the Babe Ruth bill. With my other hand, I sold newspapers, and I kept looking across the street toward where Babe Ruth had gone. So you met Babe Ruth, didn't even know it. Not Bob Ross, Babe Ruth. When all our papers were sold, I pointed to Yankee Stadium and told Jacob, I'm going over there. I needed to see Babe Ruth again. I checked the prices and realized that I could buy 2 tickets and still have plenty left for the money jar. So that's what I did. The stadium was noisy. Jacob and I walked through the short tunnel and saw a large baseball field. Babe Ruth was in the Yankee dugout with his teammates. When the game started, he stayed there. I guess his legs still hurt. Okay, so he was nice enough to buy him and his friend a ticket to Yankee Stadium. I tried to watch everything: the pitcher, the catcher, the batter, the players on the field, and Babe Ruth. Near the end of the game, with the score tied, the Yankee catcher didn't come up to bat. Out came Babe Ruth. Everyone shouted and waved. I think I cheered the loudest. He paid for my tickets, I told the man next to us. He gave me $5 so I could see this game. The man smiled. I think the Red Sox pitcher was afraid Babe Ruth would hit a home run. He purposely threw wide of the plate 4 times and walked the Babe. We cheered again as Babe Ruth slowly walked to first base. We knew he couldn't hit a home run every time, but at least the Babe was back. Babe Ruth was part of the 1932 Yankees. That year, they were the best team in baseball. He and I were a team too. His home runs helped me sell newspapers. As I left Yankee Stadium, with the coins I had earned making that nice jingling sound in my pocket, I knew Dad and I were also a team. We were both working to get our family through hard times. And that is the end. Okay, you can go ahead and open up your questions in Canvas, and I'll give you a little bit of time, and then we will go over them together. Raise your hand if you have any questions on them.